Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, Kathy. I have everyone muted, so if you want, well, while we're presenting, why don't we leave you muted? We'll unmute you for questions, and feel free to please write in the chat if you do have questions. We'll save them, so if we happen to miss them, in our presentations today, we will go back and make sure we address all of those questions. All right, I'm going to just change from my view, and then I'm going to put share screen. Okay. And now I need to figure out how to make that go back. Okay. All right, so as we have budget cuts, it's a good time for us to do some reflection, and we are able to go through and look at how things are going, how things could be going. Also, it's our grant is due the first part of July, so we have been working really hard to make sure that we are able to get the funding that we need for the next year. And when we do that, we read the rules and the policies and all those things over again, and so they're very fresh in our mind, and so we wanted to share that with everyone. And the next thing I wanted to comment about that is, yesterday I was on a call with the national groups of SNAP-Ed, and they talked about that in 2018 it's the Farm Bill year, so that there will be they'll be looking at funding and possibly what might happen with that. And they said it looks like they're looking for it to be a lean year. And they said also that we need to make sure that we're doing exactly what we're told we need to do, and we need to make sure that we're reporting exactly what we need to report, and that also we are sharing our reports with our legislators and people out in the communities. One of the things that we hope that you would do at least once a year is maybe do like the $1.50 lunch, or do a lesson and invite your stakeholders. So if you have legislators that are on our national level in your communities, that would be awesome to invite them, or their staff, to invite your commissioners, to invite local people who will really benefit from hearing about what SNAP-Ed is and seeing what you do. If you have special events, that they also like to be invited to those. You can also invite your agencies, DWS offices, and other people in your communities. That would be awesome. Okay, so we're going to start out with the very basics of what is Food Sense. And Food Sense is SNAP-Ed. SNAP-Ed is Food Sense. The federal government calls it SNAP-Ed, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Education. In Utah, we call it Food Sense. We have for over 10 years. We called it Food Sense when it was the food stamp nutrition education program, because there was a stigma with that. But Utah hasn't changed food stamps to SNAP benefits completely. So we keep this same name. We're very well known for being Food Sense. But when we do documents, we always put Food Sense, SNAP-Ed. And that's something that we learned a few years ago when, I think it was the last Farm Bill, which was 2 years ago. During that time, there was arguments from legislators saying, we don't need SNAP-Ed because Extension's doing it. Well, we are doing it, but we're doing SNAP-Ed through SNAP-Ed funding, and so we just need to make sure that our people involved, anyone, it can be on any kind of document, knows that Food Sense is SNAP-Ed, and that SNAP-Ed is a government-funded program. It's funded yearly, and so that's something really important to note. Okay, so our mission is we work with partners to provide food and nutrition education to people in need in a way that inspires public confidence and supports American agriculture. So this is actually FNS's mission statement, which we have adopted, That is now our mission statement. And I can give you these slides. So if you're going to try to take notes, I will send them to you so you don't need to do that. But this is what we do. We try to help people have access to food. We try to help them have better choices and better skills to make the food at home. Our goals are to improve the likelihood that persons eligible for SNAP will make healthy food choices within a limited budget and choose physically active lifestyles consistent with the current dietary guidelines for Americans and the USDA food guidance, which is my plate. We also, as a result of Utah's policy, systems, and environment efforts, SNAP target audiences will have improved access to nutritious food and physical activity opportunities in their communities. And just so you all know, our Thumbs Up program has just blown me away. So the Thumbs Up program just was shipped out within the last month, and the people that are doing it in our state have made such an impact that the Utah Department of Health wants to do it, which is great. This is what PSE efforts are. And the Utah Department of Health has now sent it to CDC. So it has just gone national. That's pretty cool. Good job, Casey. All right, our focuses are to provide strategies and interventions among other health promotion efforts to help the SNAP Ed target audience establish healthy eating habits and a physically active lifestyle. Our primary prevention of disease to help the SNAP Ed target audience that the risk factors for nutrition-related chronic disease, such as obesity, prevent and postpone the onset of disease by establishing healthier eating habits and be more physically active. And this all ties back into, we follow the dietary guidelines. We do very, very basic nutrition education, but we follow the dietary guidelines because that is what this program is supposed to do. So what does this mean? I just simplified it with 4 little bullet points. It means that we increase food security. And if you don't know what food security is, that means that we have enough food that our participants have enough food to last through the month, we hope, if not longer, that they always have food on the table, that they have resources to get the food. And then the other part of that bullet is we teach them where food resources are, such as we tell them where SNAP offices are, WIC offices, food banks, food pantries, any of that stuff, and we help provide food access. The next one is increase family meal time. We want families to eat together. We follow dietary guidelines using the CREATES materials developed by the state office. This one's really critical. It's important for us to use the materials that are developed. They are the ones that are approved, that we can use. We do have resources that you can add in as you teach your lessons, but the CREATES curriculum is the one that creates youth curriculum, the CREATES cooking curriculum, and the CREATES physical activity, which you will have that you can use this next year in your hands in October. We also increase food safety practices. We have a huge obligation. We get almost $1.5 million a year to provide programming. And to make sure that this is done, we have to know who our audience is. We have to do what we are told that we are supposed to do. Where are we finding our audiences? Why? Why do we do this, and how? And so who is the program supposed to benefit? It's supposed to go to low-income families, specifically SNAP participants. If it doesn't hit SNAP participants, we need them to be low-income families or on other assistance or eligible for SNAP. And so it's our challenge to try to figure out how we find them. And I'll give you a few more ways in just a minute. Okay, so where do we find them? We can't find them in general classes that are advertised to everyone in our county. It's not the same as extension classes. We have to find our target audience. Some counties don't even have to recruit at all because they have things set up, and so that they just don't even actually have time to recruit. I know in Millard County, she is hardly ever recruiting because she's so busy teaching and meeting the target audience. And so it is possible to do it in rural areas. Also, on the Wasatch Front, in Salt Lake, they hardly ever recruit too because they're just reaching a small population that they are asked to come teach at. So we will be here to help you, and this is part of Lacey's job. She'll talk a little bit about it later on, but to help us find the eligible participants in our county. We just really need to make sure that we're reaching that audience. And we get the IGP and XNet lists. And I know they aren't perfect, but it's a start, and it's a way that we can show that we're doing all reasonable efforts to meet our population. And now that we have emails on the IGP list, you can send out emails, but I have to remind you that they need to be blind carbon copied so that your participants don't see each other, who else is on the list. And so far, we have our state newsletter that goes out from Candy on the IGP list, and she has structured those so that your counties are advertised to the people in your counties. It's pretty awesome. And then I have asked that our office be included when you send out those lists, and I have only received one county's email on that. So if you aren't doing it, you need to. And if you aren't blind carboning us on it too, you need to. We put, I wish I would have pulled up it was Beaver County that has sent it out, and so good job. And they've done it twice, and I've been very impressed with their materials, their email, and very excited to be part of the recipients of that. So thank you. Okay, so what do? I mentioned before that we are trying to improve the likelihood that people eligible for SNAP will make healthy food choices within a limited budget and choose physically active lifestyles consistent with the dietary guidelines and My Plate. As a result of the PSE work, SNAP target audiences will have improved access to nutritious food and physically active activity opportunities in their communities. Okay, why do we do this? We follow the rules and regulations so that we can continue to get funding. We follow the rules and regulations because that is what we're obligated to do. Basically, it comes down to we do it so we can keep the program going. I know that we have had this program since 1998. It is now a competitive grant program. That means that other people can apply for this grant and we could lose funding. It means that we just have to do the very best that we can so that we are relevant. We're one of the best in the nation, which we are. And so I'm just trying to reiterate, I think we are the best in the nation, but I also think that we can improve a lot. Okay, how do we do this? We have actually lots and lots of ways that we do this. We do it through the direct education, through youth classes and adult classes. We teach indirect education, so this could be at the stuff that you send out, your social media is down, but it also counts as indirect. Your social media, your health fairs, county fairs. We also do PSE work, which we're all getting more involved in, and it's awesome. We have the Thumbs Up program. We have, I'm going blank. I have a whole list over there on the wall that I can't read because my office is dark. But the Thumbs Up, and then the You Bet. You Bet is Utah Breakfast Expansion Team. And Casey has done a phenomenal job getting those things growing in our state. We have social media. We like it when your county has a Facebook page. I love following the Facebook pages, and a lot of times you're just resharing what we have on our bloggers pages, and those are awesome. We have awesome bloggers who make sure that they're following the CREATES curriculum and the other resources that we have provided them. They're continually, every day they post something new. It's really a fun thing to watch. So if you're not following them, I suggest that you do. And we're starting a social marketing campaign. This September, we're going to focus on family mealtime. We will have cookbooks that you will be able to give out in your classes, and we hope that in your classes you will do a specific focus on family mealtime, the importance of eating together, and we will be providing you with those resources. The social marketing also, we hope that it will go bigger than that we can do some major advertisement. Of course, this year we have to scale way back because of our budget, but we're hoping next year that we will be able to do some big things with that. So basically how we keep our funding is we recruit, we teach, and we report. That is part of everyone's job, and it's so critical. Okay, so let me talk about the fun stuff. Our fiscal crunch. How did we get ourselves into a financial crisis? Well, one is we don't have a fast and hard budget, and part of it is we can't. So if I gave Rich County a budget of $10,000 and they don't spend their $10,000, and we'll say Salt Lake County is in need of growing their program, it does not make sense for me to have money in Rich County sitting there that we are going to lose if some other county needs the funding. And so our budgets are based on trends. It's based on where we've spent and where we're going. And we look at past years to project how the summer is going to be. We have looked at all these things to see. And one thing that's happening this month, which it has to be done today, is if your travel, your time, or your purchases haven't gone through the system, it doesn't reflect in our trends and it throws us off. And if your stuff isn't turned in today, then we're not going to have funding because this part of the year will be closed out. And I'll explain more of that here soon. But that's why we keep telling you we've got to have it in on a timely manner. So going forward, we're going to have some plans and some systems, and we'll get to that later in the presentation, of your travel has to be turned in, always. In fact, if you look at the bottom of your travel and your time, it tells you that this accurately reflects this time period. They just have to be turned in on time. Okay, so what does FY mean? That means fiscal year. We have multiple fiscal years that we deal with. USU has the fiscal year of June 30th. DWS has the fiscal year of June 30th. That is why today every purchase needs to be through the system, so that we need it all turned in today so that we can report on July 15th to DWS that portion of the year from October to June 30th is accurate, and they shut it off. They'll close that time period off, and that means that we can't go back and pay somebody, and we can't go back and do these things. We just won't have that ability. Our grant year, FNS, is our funder, and our grant year ends September 30th. It starts October 1st. And then we have the calendar, and the calendar is December 30th. So there's lots and lots of fiscal years and calendar years. It's kind of confusing, but not terrible. We try to guide you and remind you to when things are due. So once again, if your travel or your purchases or your time is not turned in quickly, I believe Gayla sent out when the time cards were to be due for June, then we we need them done as soon as possible so we can make sure that we accurately reflect the expenses. We don't want you to pay for these things out of your own pocket. We just need to know when things are done. So we've heard that some people thought that you filled out the travel log until you fill it out, until it's filled out completely. No, please turn them in monthly so that we can see where you're at right there at the month. Okay, why do we care about the fiscal year? We are grant funded, and once again, every year we request funding, and every year we are reviewed to determine if we will receive that funding. And just so you know, in that funding, the push for working with your Department of Workforce Services offices is because they are actually part of the funder that funds us, and I'll show you a flow chart of that. But DWS is the one that gets to choose if FoodSense, if our office, if the Utah State University continues to have the funding. They get to choose that. So our relationship with them has to be positive. And I have to tell you that when we requested the information from you, Jared requested it, it wasn't positive. It wasn't positive at all. It looked really bad. And I sent it in and I told DWS that we need to have, our program, our FoodSense program has a lot of work to do to make relationships better. And it's our responsibility. It's not DWS's responsibility. It's ours to make sure that things are working really well. And I mentioned we are currently writing this year's grant. It's due early July. We hope to have approval before mid-September. Since I've been in this position, I've had to wait for approvals till January before. So it just depends. We have a different system in place now, so it's usually in mid-September. But before that, it was always late into the year. We had started our year hoping that we really get funding, and so it's a tight time frame. Okay, here's the org chart. So USDA Food Nutrition Services are the people that oversee the SNAP-Ed funding. The SNAP-Ed funding is under two bills. It's under the Farm Bill and it's under Healthy Hunger Kids Free. I can't remember what it's called, but it's under that bill too. And then DWS is the SNAP provider for the state of Utah, and so they have the option to say we want to do SNAP-Ed or we don't, or we want to make it. We don't want USU to do it anymore, or we do. We have a very, very good working relationship with them on the top level. And so they like what we do. We try to meet their requests. So they've asked us to target IGP population. So we do that. When they ask us to do stuff, we do that. Then the funding comes to Utah State University, and then it comes to FoodSense. And FoodSense is housed under two departments, under NDFS and under Extension. And then it goes out to the county offices. Your county supervisor is a grantee. They write grants, and they get grants for their county to have this program in their counties. So they also have to make sure that they're following the rules and regulations. All right. So today, every expense needs to be put through. Once again, it has to be done today. We won't have funds to pay it if you cannot put it through. And then at the end of the grant, we'll have the same issue come up. Everything will have to be done by September 30th. It's just the way the grant works. Usually we have seamless grant years. We're able to just start working into the next year. We'll just have to see how that will play out this year. We're projected to overspend if the trends remain the same. Every day, Rachel and I look at the budget. We analyze the budget, and we hope to have better trends. But I have to tell you, since our last statewide conference call, we have had at least 5 to 10 people turn in travel for more than 1 month. And that's hurtful. That hurts us. You need to turn it in every month. We won't be overspending. That's not allowed. So if we don't take the small cuts that you're all sending in the documents for, it could mean that we just run out of funding in September. If we run out of funding, we just shut down without warning. So right now we're trying to be proactive, and we need your help. We need things timely. Okay. So the furlough, we gave you 4 different options, and some came up with their own options, which are totally fine too. We gave you 4 options to try to reduce the cost so that we can stay within budget. And so here's what they are. You can take a 40-hour 2-week furlough for the first 2 weeks of August. You can take a 40-hour furlough during a different 2 weeks of your choosing. You can take 2 20-hour furloughs at different times. Some of us in our office are taking them in July, and some are taking them in August. The work reduced hours every week until you reach the 40 hours, so you can reduce it that way. Also, if you are working over the 40 hours, sorry, I have a chat. Can an NEA take a furlough for this week? Absolutely. Yes, they can. You can take a furlough. And we have some NEAs who have family medical leave stuff that they need to take, so they're taking it, and that's helpful for us. And we have some NEAs I mentioned in an email who have opportunities to teach somewhere else for the summer, just for a summer camp, and that's an opportunity that they might be able to take. And then sometimes we have NEAs who want to be home with their kids during the summer, so they take some time. So just because you're taking time off for a period of time doesn't mean you won't have your job when you come back. We just need to know what you're doing. So those that have talked to me about these things actually have approval. It's just a leave of absence. They have approval. It's helpful, and that's just fine. Okay. Once again, budget issues always cause reflection. But before we did these, we always like to do the cost analysis. So we went in and did a cost per participant. And I just want you to look at our cost per participants. As you can see, we have a whole range of people. And part of the reason we have someone that might be $2,000 is because they actually do social media. So that throws them off a little bit. But look at the $5 per participants. That's pretty awesome. Or look at $11.45, even better. So part of the reason why we did this year is in February, we were at a national meeting, and there was a state who gave us their report, and it looked phenomenal, and they had huge numbers, but they also have a larger grant than ours. And so we did some calculations, and they were like $48 per person. So we did some calculations on ours, and we were around $26 per person. And so we were very pleased. Once again, we are very efficient, but we could do better. Wouldn't it be cool if we were $15 per person? Just reaching more and doing more. And our cost per participant is going to change as we implement PSE work and those kind of things, because we're not going to see, our jobs are going to be split a little bit. So we'll have to figure out a new cost analysis to include those things. And okay, employee standards. Our office came up with a little, I don't know what you call it. Let me check this real quick because we haven't, whoops, sorry. I have another chat. And the chat says, can I break this down a little better, explaining where numbers are at. Well,
Hi, this is Matea.
yeah.
I think one thing that might be helpful is if you explain, was that for each NEA? Like each NEA has a different cost per participant, or like, I think that might be helpful for people to, how you broke it down that way.
Okay. Oh, okay. I went back to, thank you. I was thinking of more on the furlough. So perfect. Yes, we can break this down. In fact, let me see if I can make my screen so it's not full. Okay, I stopped sharing. So hang on. Sorry, what? Let me pull up my cost analysis. I'm not going to share that screen because you'll see everybody's names. And I don't want you to yet. Cost effectiveness, that's what we called it. It's not opening. Do I already have it open? Yep. Okay, so how we broke it down is we took the sum of the class participants, the sum of the youth by race, the sum of the one time, and the sum of the indirect contacts, and we put them into a column. And then we took the wages and benefits and put those into a column, and then we were able to calculate the cost of that. Does that make better sense? Christy, do you want me to share anything different, or you're good? Okay, as I'm waiting, I'm going to go to share screen again. Okay. All right, so on the employee, oh, here we are. Let me see what the chat says. Okay, it's by NEA. Yep, by NEA. It's broken down by NEA. Okay, and I would be happy to send you your individual breakdown. We just haven't had time to do that. Okay, so we can do that here in the next few weeks. As soon as we get the grant in, and then we'll have a little more time to send you those kind of things. But if you want it, just send me an email, or you could send Jared one too. Okay, so our create standards. We have to have good communication. That's within the office, coordination in the office, communication with agencies and people we work with, communication with the state office. So if you have questions or concerns, sometimes we get pretty ornery email communication, and I don't think that's very professional. So we're just trying to do our best like everyone else. We're people and we have feelings too, so communicate nicely and well. And so the next one is relationships. We try to have better working relationships with those in our office, with those that we're networking, same kind of ideas, communication. Communication really helps relationships. Okay, and then the third one is each know our part. We each need to know what our jobs are, what our projects are, what we do. So in the state office, and we've sent it out to you in the last couple of months of what we do here in the state office. We also you all have role statements, and hopefully you learn your part as you're going through new hire, and you learn your part as you're learning the things that you're supposed to do. But here we define what our parts are so that everyone, and there's some crossover, but so everyone is very identified of what they do, and we want you to do the same. So in your county, sometimes when there's more than one NEA, the coordination efforts that happen in the county, there's sometimes a lead NEA, and sometimes an NEA who coordinates the calendar, and sometimes the NEA who does the social media, and sometimes the NEA does the networking or outreach. And so just so everyone knows their parts, so that there's no territory issues and those kind of things. All right, actions. How do we treat people? Are we friendly? Are we professional? The next slide's going to talk about being professional again. And we always talk about this in the office. Professionals act as they must, not as how they feel. We expect you to be professional as well. And tribute, we are trying to make sure we recognize you all for the good work that you do. We will improve that, and we hope that in your offices you're able to do that as well. It could be as a tribute, could be a thank you. A tribute could be giving someone a little gift, or just trying to make sure that people are recognized. And then we do want your employee feedback. We want everyone's feedback. I have an open door. People are coming in and out all the time, and so I'm getting feedback all the time. And sometimes the feedback is even what I could do better, and that's great. That's fine. I have a lot of place to grow. So we do want your feedback, but please try to do it in a professional, kind way. Sometimes when we send emails when we're angry, it's not a good idea. Sometimes it's good to maybe wait till the next day, because the emails, you probably changed your tone or even figured out a solution to your email along the way. So it just doesn't look very good when you're angry and sending something in that was very snippy. Okay, so once again, professionals act as they must, not as how they feel. All right, so supervisor standards. The supervisor, once again, is the PI on the internal grant funding for the SNAP-Ed program for your county. We hope that and we expect that they will hold regular staff meetings, that they understand and are in compliance with the regulations, that they help to make sure the accuracy and timeliness of reporting is completed with paperwork reports that aren't paperwork anymore, PAIRS reports, financial reports, all of those things. We hope that they're accurate and timely. Let me go back really quick to employee feedback. Every time we get an email, we usually will CC it back to your supervisor. So if you send it to us, then your supervisor should be in the loop. So just make sure they are. If they're not, then they will be in the loop. Now, we understand that sometimes there's issues occur and you're trying to brainstorm and figure out maybe that ways to work with your supervisor better, and so it might be a confidential thing, but we will be talking to the supervisor to figure that out as well. So if we don't send that back to the supervisor, we will be getting their side of it and to work through the issue if we have one. Okay, so next year, part of the reason why we set this emergency Zoom meeting up is because we need to know if your county is going to be 100% on board next year, 100% to follow the rules and regulations, 100% to use our curriculum, 100% to do the PSE efforts that we need. And we're not saying you have to do all the PSE efforts that we have in the state. You can choose, and there's some happening that are a little smaller, but we need you to be on board. Our job is, sorry if I have typos, I can already see I do, but our job is to be here to make your jobs easier. We don't sit up here making rules and regulations, and we don't sit up here trying to make things harder. Our job is to help you, and so use us as that resource and help us make this program even better. Okay, so now I'm going to let the rest of the state office do some sharing. Kim, do you mind if we start with you? Let me share my screen to you. How do I do that? I forgot. Oh, you might be able to just take over, right?
I'm trying. I'm always trying to take over. Okay, there we go. Okay, are you able to see my screen now?
Right now we can see your screen with your folders on it.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, what are you seeing on the screen now? Because I have two screens, and one is really funky and one has a circle graph on it.
We see your circle graph.
Perfect. Okay. So Heidi talked about the important pieces of food sense, and these are just done in equal parts. But we have the curriculum, the classes, the data, and the funding. And each piece is important. If you pull the data piece out, then you don't have that information and it creates a gap. Same thing with the funding. And so what I wanted to talk about is going through pairs recently, we noticed that it's not very reflective of how many participants we are teaching that qualify for assistance. So I just wanted to remind everybody on the Food Sense class participant form where you see the arrow pointing, if there's yes clicked in any one of those 4 columns, then you can go ahead and put them as qualifying for SNAP. So here's your program activity that you're filling out. And so there where the arrow is at the bottom where it says numbers of participants who receive SNAP benefits, go ahead and put in, we know the 18 to 59 plus, that's going to be reflective from those class participant forms. So you can put in any one of those 4 columns counts as somebody that is on SNAP. There are several counties who haven't been doing this part, and so what happens is when I go to pull up the reports, and this is an example of just one county for 1 month, so you can see in the adult columns, and I'll talk about the youth columns in a minute, but in the adult columns you can see that they taught 30 adults, but of those 30 adults there is far less than 50% that were, or excuse me, let me go back. So look at the 2 center columns, C and D. So we have that amount of adults that were taught, but how many were on SNAP benefits? So you see the number of SNAP recipients in SNAP Ed, for instance, from 18 to 59 and 60 is 348, but of those, the number of individuals that receive the SNAP benefits are 30. And so that would tell me that we're not reaching the audience that we need to reach. So it's either telling me that or telling me that we just haven't understood how to fill out the forms correctly. So as far as adults go, you're going to want to really pay attention to that class participant form, those 4 columns, and anywhere where it says yes means that they qualify. And so you'll go ahead and put them in that bottom column, the number that check yes. As far as youth go, that's been a confusion. And so if you are teaching youth, the implication would be that 50% of those youth at least qualify for benefits. So 50% of those would be SNAP recipients. So from this point on, I'd like you to do that with the youth, that make sure that you're putting 50% of those youth as SNAP recipients from this point on. And please make sure that you're really looking at the number of people who are receiving the SNAP. And some reminders, it's important to report correctly on pairs, and you can go in and change things. I am working with Joel Wallace to see if I can go in and work with the youth reports up to this point too, to get them into the 50% range. You need to completely erase the 10th of the month from your memory. It no longer applies to anything as far as pairs, forms, any of that. So roles everything can be turned in and should be turned in as soon as possible after you teach a class. And then again, it's important to reach our target audience. If there is if we're really doing what it looks like, then we need to do a better job of reaching the people that are on SNAP. If we're not meeting our target audience, we need to ask ourselves, what am I doing to be proactive in finding them? Let's see. And then I just wanted to pull up pairs and show you. So for my reports, I just go in and look at the EARS data, and I'm just going to do it for the whole state. Whoops. And if you look at the whole state for the whole year, we have a total of all ages combined of 12,925. Of those, 879 are showing that they receive SNAP benefits. So 50% would be closer to 6,400 and something. So we really need to look at how we're reporting or where we're teaching. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. And that is all I have. Oh, except for thank you for doing such a great job, really, of embracing this and all the work that you do. And I knew it would be a little rough, and you really are doing a wonderful job. We just need to go back and look at those reports that we filled in and make sure that it's reflective of how many SNAP recipients we really are teaching.
Thank you,
Heidi.
Okay, thank you so much, Kim. I have to tell you guys all about our pairs for Utah. We are the first fully implementing state in pairs in the nation, in our region. It's going national, and it is so exciting, the work that we are doing. And Kim is so good at her job. She is there for you. She has helped many, many people individually, and she would be happy to continue to help. All right, now we're going to jump to Casey.
Heidi, you've got a few questions in the chat.
Okay,
I don't know.
Let me hurry and answer those then. Let's see. Okay, so the roles need to be turned in as per class, not at the end of the month. Yes, Laurie, you can actually do a screenshot with your iPad and send it immediately to Kim. Okay, all right, Casey, your turn.
Okay, hi everyone.
Can I break in real quick? I didn't read two of them. Sorry, I was thinking I had them. Okay, so Kim, I thought you were going to just figure that out by our county numbers. I didn't know we were supposed to fill that out on adults. Sorry. So she'll take care of that. Okay, and then how do we identify youth in a classroom as eligible? Yes, if your school has qualified, then you should be okay. We have given you those schools, and we will give them to you again for this year. Lacey has them all broken out, and I'm sure if she's on, now you all know she just had a baby, so if she's on, she will share that with you.
So Heidi, Lacey's here with me, and you know, not to make assumptions, but if you're teaching, and you're right, Marcia, that we did talk about the youth, and that has been kind of up in the air, and so from now on, just assume that they're 50%. Unless you hear differently. So if you're teaching at a school that qualifies, make the assumption that it's 50%. And if it's different than that, and I kind of answered this, but Lacey can help with that. And we also have a couple interns that we can have look up what percentage are in the county or whatever. But for the adults, make sure that you go back and put them in correctly. So thanks.
Okay,
yes,
awesome.
I'll
the percentages for the schools each year. And so actually each school will have a specific percentage if you want to be more precise. There may be some schools that have 75% of youth that receive benefits. And so if you want to get more specific, we can find that school and get the number. And it should actually be in the employee handbook from this last year.
Oh, awesome.
Yes. And one more comment about that too is, so it has to just be 50% that are eligible. So the reports that Lacey will give you will be those that have signed up. So if they're 46%, we're assuming there's some people that didn't sign up. So you can find that out from the school, or you can estimate that there's probably really 50% at that school. Okay, Casey, sorry to keep jumping you back and forth.
That's okay. So I don't have a screen to share. I just have a couple of quick minutes that I wanted to talk about curriculum and material that we're using, just to make sure we're all on the same page. Going through the guidance, which are pretty much our directions for writing the grant for funding for next year's year, there are several pages designated to the importance of using curriculum and material that are evidence-based. So evidence-based means that what we teach and how we distribute information to our participants is backed by scientific research. Ultimately, it means that we know that how we're teaching and what we're teaching is going to help us achieve the intended results that we want for our participants, because we're all out there to give them information that's ultimately going to improve their quality of life. And when you're doing nutrition in particular, it's something that it's a science that's in the media all the time. So it's just really important that we're giving messages that are backed by the research. And our research base is primarily the dietary guidelines for Americans and My Plate. And at the state office, we have provided you with a plethora of materials that you can use, including the CREATES curriculum, the Create an Active Lifestyle, which, as Heidi mentioned, will be rolled out in October, and then the Youth Create curriculum as well. So again, this is how our program's funded. So it's really important that you use the materials that we provide for you. We do have the flexibility to create some new materials that are specific for the needs of our Utah population, like the Create Farm Fresh Food that some counties are implementing, the Thumbs Up program. And when you use materials that aren't evidence-based previously, you have to make sure that you're evaluating them to prove that they are doing what you intend them to do. So that's why it's so important that when we roll out these new initiatives, they usually come hand in hand with a pretty extensive evaluation process. And that's, again, required just to make sure we're actually doing what we're intending to do. So for those implementing the Create Farm Fresh or the Thumbs Up program, it's really important that you are using the evaluation tools and making sure your participants are filling them out appropriately and thoroughly, so we can see if the program works. Because if it doesn't work, that's fine. We just need to know that so we can revamp it and give our participants the materials and the information that they need.
Just to re-emphasize all that, our NEAs in the field that's not part of your job, is to create new curriculum. It's not part of your job to even be seeking stuff that's beyond what resources we have given you. Our grant has to have all of those written into it, and it has for years, and that's why we have been, here's what we have. Now the Creates curriculum is awesome because there's flexibility. So I was just re-emphasizing that just to say, don't try something new in your county that's not approved, because then you're way off course and we don't have funding to support that.
Yeah, thank you, Heidi. And, obviously, like Heidi said, the CREATES curriculum has a lot of flexibility in it where you can add your personal experience, as long as you preface it with, in my experience, my kids like whole wheat pasta instead of, I don't know, brown rice or something like that. So it's fine to add some bits of information in, but use that NEA resource sheet we sent out a couple of months ago. Jared sent it out, that has some evidence-based research resources that you can get some additional information to add into your CREATES curriculum or your CREATES classes. So let's see. Yeah, so again, just emphasizing that this is part of our federal funding, and if we find that people are teaching other things, that's going to be really problematic when we get audited this coming year.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you, Casey. And just so you all know, her baby just turned 1 yesterday, so, and her mom's out, so she's probably going to go party with her family. No. Okay.
Chat. Yes, we can send out that resource list again, and I believe it's available on the staff website. So when we send it out again, we'll also send where you can find it.
Perfect. Thank you. Lacey, do you have anything else you want to add in on eligibility or anything else that you do?
Yes, I'd like to discuss a little bit of eligibility. This last month before I had my sweet little baby, I was working on a section for our upcoming grant just about eligibility and the needs assessment for people in Utah, and just to share that information with everyone of who really are showing a really great need for our classes, because we have specifically those who are low income, but if we want to look to those who need it even most within that group, we found that Utah children are more susceptible to poverty than other groups within the state, than adults or even the elderly. And what's great about children is a lot of times they're a little bit easier to access as far as the schools, if we can build strong relationships with schools to be able to teach them, those that qualify. I've seen several NEAs that have a lot of success at reaching that audience. And what's really great is they're a kind of a captive audience if they're at their schools. And so any NEA that's interested in teaching children, I really highly recommend looking into being able to access one of those schools, because that's a great way to reach them. And they're really a high need. And actually, a couple months ago, Kim, Jared, and I went to a conference on poverty, and our Lieutenant Governor Cox brought up the point that there's a real need to start having interventions for behaviors with children, opposed to trying to get them to change their ways when they're adults. It's proven to be much more successful, and we have a much higher rate of being able to positively impact them when they're young, opposed to when they're older. And so that's a really great group to see if you can reach out to them. In addition, in Utah, women are also more likely to be below the poverty guidelines, especially if they're a single mother. So single mothers, if there's a way to kind of reach into that group, as well as Hispanics and Native Americans or American Indians. And actually for this upcoming year, we're asked within our grant to talk about who we should be trying to reach out to more. Maybe they're underserved. And we've included those, the American Indian tribes. We have 11 reservations in Utah, and I know there's a few counties that do reach out to them, but if we could get into all the reservations if possible, and I do know that can be tricky since they're technically other countries, but if we can reach out to them and build strong relationships, and I know some who are really successful, and maybe we can kind of learn from one another to see how that would be, how we can best reach out to the different groups. The intergenerational poverty, obviously that's a big group, especially for our funders with the Department of Workforce Services. And as far as impact, that's a really great group, because these are the people who are really stuck within the cycle of poverty. There are many participants of SNAP who maybe they're just going through a rough patch and they'll be able to recover quickly. But those who are in our IGP group, they're families that have really been stuck within poverty for generations. And so there's a really great opportunity to help these people if we're able to use our resources to invite them to our courses and reach out to them and share our resources with them. And then refugees, which there's only a few counties right now that have the refugee work going on, but there's definitely a lot of opportunity to reach out to these folks who are low income and also just struggling with readjusting to a new country or possibly a new state if they're refugees from. I just know I live next door to some refugees from Hurricane Katrina. So sometimes they could even be from within the same country. Yeah. And also, I'm out, but I'd love to be able to help out anyone who needs, resources or ways to find where they can be teaching, because honestly, what we have is awesome, and I get wanting to share it with everyone. And we can share it with everyone, but we definitely have to focus our efforts and our resources in helping those who really most need it. And that's our target audience.
Thank you so much, Lacey. I just want to emphasize a few points too. So a lot of times when we work with the tribes, depending on our relationship with them and what their processes are, they don't want us to evaluate their participants. We get that, okay? I've actually done an IRB with the Navajo Nation tribe. It took us a whole year to get approval to be able to evaluate. And then we have to report and stuff. So I don't know if you guys, okay, I saw a mute button. So I think it's important for us to still do the work with them, even if we can't evaluate on those participants. We can talk about success stories. We can talk about how many we've reached, but we might not be able to collect the data on them at this point. But I have a liaison from Arizona who is working with the tribes, and he has given some great information for us to be able to expand our outreach and how to get IRBs through. He's there to help us, and so when Lacey comes back, we'll be working on that.
Heidi?
Yes.
This is Lacey again. With the success stories, I just actually watched a hearing in that with Congress, with the House group on agriculture. I can't think. Mm-hmm. The Committee on Agriculture. There we go. And the success stories is really what drew in a lot of those congressmen and congresswomen. One person shared a story about a little girl who learned about jump roping, who was overweight. She used all the things she learned from the SNAP Ed class all summer and came back and thanked the NEA for teaching her, and she had lost weight and she was feeling so much healthier and happier, and she's a really good jump roper now. And that really caught attention to the people, the representatives there, opposed to some of the numbers that people were throwing out. So There's really a lot of value in these success stories with our legislators.
Thank you so much for sharing, and I'm so glad you were able to come up today. The other thing I wanted to emphasize too is we did a pilot study in 3 counties with what we call family cooking classes, or we're going to call next year Create Family Meals. And it was targeted to our IGP populations, and it is teaching the family in hopefully like a setting like a home ec room where the families can come and they each get a unit where they cook together as a family, and they learn how, it's just kind of like home ec, but that will also be in the curriculum next year that you will be able to do, so you can plan for that. And I wanted to emphasize too, when Lacey was mentioning what was said at Congress, is those impact sheets for the counties. We do a statewide one, so we distribute that everywhere. But last year we only had 3 counties turn in data to have impact sheets sent back out to them. And hopefully you use those impact sheets to share your story. Hopefully there's some success stories on it. And hopefully it's a good resource. In the past, we used to do them for everyone. We just don't have time to do that. We need you to select your data and tell us what it is. Pairs will be awesome for that, because you can say, here's my numbers, here's my sheet, and here's my success stories, and then the impact sheets can be sent back to you. Okay. Rachel, are you still on, and do you want to share stuff about if Rachel and Gayla are on? Gayla has family in town, so I'm not sure if she was able to make it today. But share about travel time and expenses. I'll go see if I can unmute you. If you are, if they aren't, I can share. Okay, I will start sharing, and oh, she doesn't have audio. Okay, Rachel, I will just start sharing, and if you keep typing, and I'll watch that, and if I say something I'm not supposed to, let me know. Okay, so we do have standards in our policy manual of what we do for travel, and it just since we've had budget problems and we have problems with people turning in their travel, excuse me, we went and talked to the travel office. If you do not turn your travel in within 60 days, which that's way too long for us, but if you do not turn it in within 60 days, then it becomes taxable income, which means that instead of it just being a reimbursement for your travel, now you are paying taxes on your travel. So there's one reason why you should turn in your travel. Sometimes you have a bigger travel period than others. So let's say I traveled and I had $100 in 2 weeks instead of a month. It's okay to turn that in. You can turn it in as frequently as possible. Just don't wait. Let's see, what else am I? Turn in your time cards on time. We haven't been sending out reminders until this last one because we need it to be closed out. But turn your time cards in on time. Your time cards tell you the day that they're due. So as you're filling them out, hopefully you fill them out accurately. As you're filling them out, then you know what day to send them in. I always CC myself, and it's usually a blank carbon copy, and that's so I know the email went through. If you are concerned that your time might not be going through either to your supervisor or to our office, then CC yourself, and then you will know. And then you'll know if the attachment was there. And so that's a helpful little hint, and you can actually set it up in your Outlook that it blank carbons you every time, and mine does. Every email I send, I get double because I like it to come into my inbox to make sure that it was sent. Okay. Receipts must be attached and submitted on the P card within the week of the purchase. And it is your responsibility to make sure it's done. There will be new policies. This will be at the university level, that we're just having too many people not completing their transactions, which is purchasing, submitting the receipts, submitting the purchase, all of that through Banner. And if you are not making sure it's all the way through, then it causes us a problem. And the P cards will be shut down and you won't be able to use them. So it's a real critical thing to make sure that they're done. Okay, Rachel, anything else? Okay, she still doesn't have audio, but if you look in the chat box, you can see how to look up the financial reports on your P card. And I will save that. We'll send out the link, and you can see where it's pending. I have to say that when I got back from China, actually Gayla covered for me while I was in China, but when I got back, I was out of the habit of approving, and so I was a couple weeks behind. But the problem comes is if you're a few weeks behind, then as it goes through the approval process, you don't know when that approver is going to be in. So it's important for you to make sure that your P cards are in on a timely manner. Okay, let's see. Let's go to Jocelyn. Do you have anything you want to share on social media?
No, people are doing good. I love it when I see like Millard, Mariano sharing what's going on. But anybody that wants to do it, it's pretty easy. You just can go to the Live Well Utah, the Snap Flavor After, the Cooking It's a Snap, or Table for One places and share what they have if you want. And then some counties are more specific and they'll put their own county happenings. It's sort of if you want to do it, it's great, but we do have good people out there already creating stuff so you can just share. But no, you're doing great sharing it. Every time you share, it helps boost the numbers. So doing good.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Yeah, we do like the sharing. The sharing of the resources is very key for our programming. It, like Jocelyn said, it boosts our numbers and it makes our outreach even more. If you do have a Facebook page, please let Jocelyn know. If she doesn't already, she actually has quite a good list of who's out there. Another thing that I have seen on Facebook is it's Cache County. They put their events on Facebook, so they have created events, and then that's very helpful. Now remember that our events also should follow the curriculum that is provided for us. Okay, Matea, would you mind just giving a brief overview of the comprehensive needs assessment that we have been, I guess I should say, mandated to do?
Yeah, so we have been required by FNS or the USDA to conduct a community needs assessment. And basically what that means is we have to collect data, all sorts of data. We're looking at the social media data, we're looking at PSE efforts, we're looking at getting general information from our participants, and it's basically all done in an effort to see what's working really well for us and then what could be changed or what type of education or resources we could be providing to our participants to help them change behaviors. So it's kind of a way to evaluate food sense or SNAP Ed kind of overall. And so we have been working on getting approval through IRB for the last few months, and we have now recently gotten approval. And so basically what that means for you is we'll likely be contacting you over the next couple months. So we have surveys that will be sent out to participants that you won't have to work with, but then we also have a couple of surveys that will ask your help with distributing those to SNAP participants and or your SNAP Ed participants, and they would get a small reinforcement material for completing that survey. And so just to give you a heads up that this will be happening, and I'm sure in our statewide staff meetings in the next few times that we meet for that, we'll talk about it a lot more in detail. And you'll know exactly, what the expectations are for you. But just so you know that there will be a couple surveys that will be done. And again, I know it's one more thing to do, but it's required for us to have put it together. And so it's required for you guys to have to, help us. And so all this data will be really beneficial though, because, within each county and overall as a state, we can figure out what efforts we're doing that work really well, and then what efforts maybe need to be changed or adjusted to really help meet the needs of our population or of SNAP or low-income participants. So just so you're aware that that's going on. Most of them are surveys. We will be doing focus groups as well. That will come. We'll do the surveys first and get that kind of out of the way, and then we will work with select counties. So not every county will have to worry about us coming in and doing focus groups, but we have a few counties that we will come in from the state office, and hopefully you'll be able to kind of help us find SNAP Ed participants who would be willing to participate in focus groups, and then we would conduct these focus groups, and those participants would get an incentive for their time. So it's a huge process, and we know that it's a lot on us, which means that it's a lot of responsibility for you as well. And so I just in advance, we just want to thank you for helping and being willing to kind of help us get into your counties and work with your participants. So You can email me if you have any questions, but we'll just give you more details as the weeks go on.
Yeah, thank you. And just so you all know, Matea is now Dr. Matea. She just got her PhD this spring, so congratulations to her. Also, I wanted to mention our statewide Zooms. We have, for our conference calls, we have gone back and forth, but we're going to continue with the Zoom for now. And the reason why is because we're able to mute people. So here's my request is if you are presenting that day to call in with your picture on the Zoom meeting, have your picture there, and then also be prepared to share. So we can unmute you. If we know what your name is, it makes it way easier for us to unmute. If you call in on a phone number, it's really, really hard for us to know who you are. And so that just makes things a little harder for us. And then roll call for Jared before I go to roll call. Jared, do you have anything you want to share? Okay. Okay, we'll just go ahead and go to roll call. Let's see, let's start with, actually, I'm not going to start with anyone. What I have done today is I went in and made the gallery view so I could see who was there. Most of the people had names, and they also had pictures, so I appreciate that. It was very, very good. But I'm going to unmute our telephone people. So first I'm starting with the 435-232-9967. Can you tell me who you are?
That's Candy.
Okay, thanks, Candy. And then I'm going to unmute the 435-512-1137. Can you tell me who you are?
That's me. That's Adri.
Okay, thanks, Adri. Okay, we don't mind you doing from the phone because we understand that you all have busy lives, but it helps if you're presenting to not be on the phone. And so we just wanted to make sure we have everyone. If you have someone that's hiding behind you that's also sharing an office with you, please type it into the chat right now. And now I'm going to open it up for questions. Candy and Adri, do you have any questions first before, and then I'll the reason why I'm asking you is because you're already unmuted, so.
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I don't either. I just want to say hi to Candy. Hi, Adri. Miss ya. I miss you more.
Well, thank you, you too. And if anyone else has questions, you can either type it in the chat or you are free to unmute yourself and ask right now. Or send them by email. It's pretty quiet out there. Okay. I don't often wait very long, but if you do have questions, please feel free to email us. We're not here to scare you. I hope this presentation just helped give an overview of exactly what we are supposed to do and how we're supposed to move forward. And we know the financial issues are not fun. They're not fun at all. And they're not fun for us. They cause a lot of stress. They cause a lot of problems. But we're here trying to do the best that we can. We've cut back expenditures tremendously in our office. And we just need your help to do it too. I appreciate those that are sending in their names. And once again, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask now. If not, we will talk to those that weren't on today tomorrow. And once again, I appreciate your time.